Hello, everyone, and welcome to Atma Occult. Today, we are going to be discussing the astrological transits for this month, the month of August in 2025, and what they are likely to bring for each ascendant sign. These transits can also apply to your moon sign, so either your ascendant or whatever sign your moon is in. We are using sidereal Vedic astrology. So if you do not know your sidereal ascendant or moon sign, you can use our free birth chart calculator at atmaoccult.com.
So before we get started, but don't know exactly which consultation option to choose. So we recently released this focus point flash reading. In this reading, you can ask any one question for us to use as a focus point while we're reading your chart. And we let you know what we see in your chart to give you your answer. So this is not an in-depth reading. Like, for example, in our career consultations, we actually spend somewhere around 1 to 3 full days analyzing your chart and writing our notes about it and deciding what is for you to get the best results out of your career right now. This reading is more of a quick snapshot where we pull your chart up with your question in mind using our intuition. So this is definitely something that you want to check out, and we're going to have the link to the description. We're going to have the link to that in the description of this video.
Definitely. So with that being said, let's get into our forecast for this month of August 2025. First, we'll give you an overview of the month, and then we'll talk about what to expect for each. So in the first portion of the month, we do have Mercury retrograde in the sign of Cancer with the Sun. And Mercury will be retrograde until August 11th, and it will remain in the sign of Cancer for most of the month. It won't enter Leo until August 31st. And Venus is now transiting the sign of Gemini with Jupiter and will enter the sign of Cancer, where Mercury is transiting, on August 21st. Venus will conjoin Jupiter in the exact degree on August 11th. And the Sun will move into the sign of Leo, where K2 is transiting, on August 17th. Mars just recently moved out of Leo into Virgo on July 28th.
So during the first half of the month, while Mercury is still retrograde in Cancer with the Sun, this may be a time where there is difficulty or misunderstandings in our communication, especially in matters relating to the home or our emotions. This is a time when it is important to communicate as carefully as possible and leave a lot of extra time in our schedules for setbacks or difficulties in relation to technology or Mercury turns direct, and especially after it's joined by Venus starting on August 21st, this will be a time when communication and all of the matters related to home, properties, mother, or emotions will flourish, and there's an opportunity to have a lot of nourishing or healing experiences with loved ones, especially if you have experienced any upsets or chaotic situations as a result of this Mars K2 conjunction, which recently happened in June and July. This is the time when some of that chaos can start to die down, and we can start to use our communication to heal the damage. When Venus transits over Jupiter in the same degree on August 11th, this is an opportune time, according to tantric astrological traditions, to perform any action aimed at winning over the opposite sex or gaining public favor.
So we'll start with Aries ascendant, or if your moon is in Aries. So this is a month where you really need to step up to the plate. And the reason we say this is because Mars is now transiting your 6th house of conflicts, aspected by Saturn from the 12th house of hidden enemies. And Jupiter, which is a benefic planet, is in the 3rd house with Venus, another benefic planet, for most of the month. And when benefic planets are in the 3rd house, this could create a little bit of cowardice or kind of a lack of self-belief. But Aries, Mars is calling you into the ring right now. So there's no time for that. Mars is also aspecting your 1st house, which gives you a surge of energy and confidence to overcome any obstacles you might be facing. But right now, as we said, Mercury has been retrograde in your 4th house. Again, causing you to kind of second guess everything, especially for matters of the home, any land, real estate. So now is the time for you to fight hard to overcome these struggles. And once Mercury turns direct and Venus comes into your 4th house, you can really reap the rewards of all that hard work and enjoy a lot more mental peace. Just be careful not to get into any heated arguments during especially the 1st half of this month. There is a potential for impulsive outbursts and ego clashes. And that's exactly what your hidden enemies want because they're represented by Saturn. So they're very patient and they're willing to wait for you to slip up. So just put your head forward and just focus on that daily routine.
So time for you to gain your Lagna Lord is transiting over your 11th Lord of Gains, Jupiter, in the 2nd house of wealth and abundance. This creates a strong Dhan Yoga, or wealth-producing combination. Right now, it's your communication, siblings, or travel plans. But after Mercury turns direct on August 11th, things in these areas should be quite positive and beneficial. The recent Mars-Ketu conjunction took place for you in your 4th house. So you may have had to deal with something very chaotic in your home life or related to your property or mother. But now the sun moving into Leo on August 17th is a sign, according to the classical text Bhrigu Samhita, that you will start to experience more happiness from these areas of your life. And according to this same classical text, Venus moving into Cancer in August signifies a time when your fame, willpower, and attractiveness can be magnified. So this month for you goes like 1, 2, 3. First there will be gains, then your home life will improve, then your status will go up. So Taurus, this is, out of all the ascendant signs, Taurus might be one of the best that we're seeing for August. Arguments with your children, as Mars transiting your 5th house, aspected by Saturn, could cause some potential for conflict here. Mars in this situation is like the red flag waving, and you're the bull, so don't fall for it. Maintain your stability.
Moving to Gemini ascendant, or if your moon is in Gemini, this month is a time for you to receive wisdom. Why? Because Venus is transiting over Jupiter in your 1st house. This is called a Dviguru Yoga. And this means that it's the yoga of the 2 gurus, the 2 wisest planets coming together and giving you the wisdom and the knowledge you need to expand your horizons and grow into a better version of yourself. Right now, you may also be gaining some wealth or material possessions, but since Mercury is retrograde until August 11th in your 2nd house of wealth, there could be something that might need to be fixed with your finances. Be especially careful with electronic transactions of funds. A good practice to maintain during this time is to just check your bank account pretty much every day, just to make sure everything is going through properly, and definitely watch out for any fraudulent transactions. So Mars is transiting your fourth house, and that can give you an advantage in matters related to land, real estate, or properties. But Saturn is directly aspecting from the 10th house, which may actually slow down the progress in relation to those things, which makes Mars feel a little bit frustrated. So just cultivate some patience this month, especially with things related to your home, properties, or mom.
So for Cancer Ascendant Moon this month is a time for you to cultivate discipline and get control over your expenses. Right now, Mercury is retrograde in your ascendant, and this retrograde Mercury is causing confusion about everything in your life, and that could even include who you are supposed to be right now. Since Mercury is conjunct your second lord, the Sun, and you just had a Mars-Ketu conjunction in your second house last month, there can especially be confusion or stress in relation to your finances. With Jupiter and Venus transiting your 12th house, there can be a tendency for your expenses to expand. However, this time does offer you a unique opportunity to go inward and have profound spiritual experiences in secluded or private settings. You could even experience revelations through dreams during this time. Mars transiting your third house as a Yogacaraka planet, a really strong planet for your ascendant, infuses you with willpower and courage to put effort into accomplishing your goals. The third house is also the house of yoga asanas, or physical exercise in general. So this is a time where self-discipline and meditation can be very rewarding, and an effort should be made to reduce your expenses and the amount of resources you consume.
Moving to Leo Ascendant or Leo Moon, this month is a time where you have the chance to rise and shine. However, you may need that wake-up call before you can do that. Because for the last 2 months, that Mars-Ketu conjunction took place in your first house. And this could have caused you to take actions which now you're realizing weren't thought out as much as you initially anticipated. And we have Mercury retrograde in your 12th house with your Lagna Lord Sun, which could be causing feelings of confusion or isolation. Once Mercury turns direct on the 11th, this will all start to improve. When the Sun moves into your first house in the sign of Leo on the 17th, this is a chance for you to increase your fame, honor, and your reputation in society. And that's according to a classical text called Bhrigu Samhita. This is the opportunity to fix whatever might have been broken in June and July. Overall prospects for financial gains are good for the entire month, but watch out for toward a tendency towards any intoxication or escapism after the 21st, and that's when Venus moves into your 12th house with Mercury. Also, with Mars transiting your second house in Virgo, be careful not to speak too harshly, especially if you are offering any sort of criticism to anyone.
So for Virgo Ascendant or Moon, this month is a time for you to undergo a transformation and rise in your career. Your Lagna Lord Mercury is transiting your 11th house of gains, recognition, and fulfillment of desires for the entire month of August. Right now, while Mercury is still retrograde, you may be worried about your income or other matters of the 11th house. However, after Mercury turns direct on the 11th, and especially once Venus, your second lord of wealth and ninth lord of good luck, comes into the 11th house, you can experience a lot of financial gains. And these gains can come through multiple income streams or through your friends or network circle. Mars in your is the 8th lord of personal transformation and the 3rd lord of self-efforts house. This infuses you with energy to transform yourself or your life in some way. Not the best planet for Virgos, so be careful not to overexert yourself too much. Venus transiting your 10th house of career with Jupiter until the 21st of the month shows that now is a great time for you to rise in your career, especially if you are involved in intellectually oriented fields such as teaching or consulting, where you serve as a guide to others. Just make sure you keep working hard, because Jupiter in your 10th house can also make you feel more inclined to learn or study than actually get work done. So as long as you stay on task, this should be a time when you can get great results.
For Libra Ascendant, or anyone with their moon in Libra, this month is a time for you to travel and receive advice from experts or father figures. Your Lagna Lord Venus is currently transiting the 9th house of long distance travel with Jupiter, the planet of long distance travel and of wisdom. This is a time when you can receive helpful advice from any knowledgeable person on a given subject. This is also a time when you might meet a guru or some sort of mentor figure, or maybe gain something from your actual father. With Mercury retrograde in your 10th house until August 11th, you may have some worries about your career or your current line of endeavor. However, with the sun being strong in the 10th house, you'll still be able to shine in your work, which will lead to gains later this month, especially when the sun transits your 11th house of income and Venus comes into your 10th house with Mercury. Mars is transiting your 12th house of hidden enemies and aspecting Saturn in your 6th house of enemies and conflicts. So there may be some karma which you're going to have to overcome as a result of any sort of hidden enemy. So someone you didn't think was an enemy but is kind of secretly plotting maybe. But especially look out for young males or men working against you behind the scenes, and that's because Mars represents young men.
So for Scorpio Ascendant or Moon sign this month, this is a time for research and healing. Jupiter and Venus are currently transiting your 8th house of research, transformation, inheritances, and occult, time where you learn astrology or do some deep research into any subject and discover some hidden knowledge which is helpful to you in some way. Mercury is retrograde in your 9th house with the sun right now, so you may be worried about something related to your father. This is also not a very good time for long distance travel or receiving advice from mentors. However, after Mercury turns direct on the 11th and is conjoined by Venus on the 21st, everything you're worried about now will start to be resolved. Your Lagna Lord Mars is transiting through your 11th house of gains and income for the entire month of August, which, according to the classical text Bhrigu Samhita, should be a good time for financial gains, recognition from society, and happiness in your relationship.
Moving to Sagittarius Ascendant or Moon in Sagittarius. This month is a time for you to love and learn. Your Lagna Lord Jupiter is currently transiting your 7th house of relationships with Venus, the planet of love and romance. This could be a time for you to experience a deeper harmony with your current partner or find opportunities if you're single. Mercury is currently retrograde in your 8th house with the sun, so you may be preoccupied with finding an answer to some uncertainty or some secret in your life. It may be better for you to kind of let go of this pursuit for the moment. Just take advantage of this relationship bliss that's available to you at this moment. Once the sun moves into the 9th house on the 17th, and Venus enters your 8th house with Mercury on the 21st, whatever issue you're worried about will start to improve. Mars in your 10th house can indicate progress in your education or learning, according to the classical text Brigu Samhita. However, since it is a malefic planet and aspected by Saturn, now is the time where your public reputation could take a little damage. So if you're able to keep your head down, just keep focusing on your career, focus on your relationship and your learning opportunities, that's going to be the most efficient use of your time this month.
So for Capricorn ascendant or moon sign, this month is a time for service and spiritual awakening. Jupiter and Venus conjunct in your 6th house highlight the need for you to focus on your daily routine, especially if there is any way that it can incorporate service to others or service to deities. If you have any kind of spiritual altar at home, this is a time to maintain it regularly and meditate every single day. If you do this, it could lead to intense spiritual awakenings later in the month. With Mercury retrograde in your 7th house, you may be worried about something related to your spouse or business partner, or having communication issues with these people. The sun transiting your 7th house shows that you should focus again on the importance of service to your spouse or business partner during this transit. After Mercury turns direct, the sun enters Leo and Venus conjoins Mercury in your 7th house on the 21st of August. Your worries or communication issues with your spouse or business partner will improve and give very good results. Mars transiting your 9th house bodes well for matters related to your land, real estate, or property